Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bedtime Stories. My name is Tracy and I am your host. I decided that bedtime stories ought to be read from the bed. So here we are in my bedroom. Welcome to my bedroom. We are starting a new book, and this is I, the Wizard by Daniel McKnight. Daniel McKnight is a living author, and he coaches my he is the director of my short form improv team. He said that this I, the Wizard book would be better, more conducive than the other books that he's written. They are available on Kindle Unlimited. I don't know if it's going to be good. We're going to find out together. I've had a very full day. But before I get into this book, I need to ask you a series of very serious queries. Oh, P.S. I don't know if this is going to be appropriate for children. Please proceed with caution. Have you gone pee in the potty yet? Did you brush your teeth? Have you got your water next to the bed? I got my water right here. Ooh, that probably screwed up the sound. Have you done your stretches? You got all that done already? Great job. I have not gotten any of that done except for the water. Don't really need to pee. I should brush my teeth because I'm starting on this whole get your teeth fixed journey. Yay, dental insurance. And I have not done my stretches in days. No, that's not right. I did my stretches yesterday, but I didn't do any today. Terrible. Bad. I'm going to do better tomorrow, though. So it's okay. All right. Part 1 of I, the Wizard by Daniel McKnight. This one is called A Death in the Village. Excuse me. I wonder if you could hear the depth of that belch in the microphone, because that was from down low. I ate a good dinner. All right. We're just going to read chapter 1 of part 1. I was standing at my office, looking out my window at the street below. The rain had stopped the day before, and the mud river that is the main thoroughfare through my village was drying nicely. It was midday in Plowden. Soon, village workers would be able to remove the wooden slats that are placed across the street, so people could get from one side to the other without going knee-deep in mud. My name is Boaz. A couple of years ago, I left Augury's Wizard Academy, where I graduated and later taught magic. Normally, wizards who graduate from the school either teach there or are hired out. If they are hired out, they work for towns, counties, even lords, whoever can afford it. I tried that route and failed. Of course, the lord I was working for was all too glad to get rid of me after I punched him in the face. I heard that his nose healed nicely without a hint of being broken. After that, I took up teaching in the school, but that didn't work out either. I guess I just don't like being told what to do. The store downstairs is mine. It's a way that I can try my hand at something I had thought about for years, working only for myself. As far as I know, I am the only private wizard for hire ever. The shop itself sells supplies for those who practice magic without any formal training, such as witches, warlocks, magicians, and others who call themselves wizards but really aren't. With this is a base of operations. It allows me to work for people in towns that need help. There are all kinds of people with small problems who could use a hand, but can't afford the cost of a full-time mage. It was a niche I saw and figured I could fill. Lorelei drifted in through the open office door. One of the luckiest days I've had since leaving the wizard school was the night I walked into the inn at the village of Cole. She was hard not to notice. First, she was the only pretty thing I had seen in about a month. She was tall, about 5'11", short red hair, perfectly formed pointed ears, and emerald green eyes. She wore a one-piece, skin-tight, forest green dress that was way too short and that left one shoulder bare. Fortunately, she had the long legs and figure for it, and wasn't afraid to show off. Her flat stomach only accentuated her natural curves, and made her breasts seem even larger than they were. Dang it, Dan. Second, she was the only elf in the place. Elves are supposed to have small breasts, thank you very much. And since they're immortal, they wouldn't be, prancing around like a trollop, Dan. Sorry, we'll go back to the story. Third, she was in the process of beating a drunk to a pulp. That part I like. Apparently, he had been too free with his hands, and not free enough with his money. My kind of woman. 3 burly men who were sitting at the bar obviously didn't like the fact that there was an elf employed in their local inn. Furthermore, they didn't like the fact that she was winning in a bar fight with a human. Humans and elves naturally don't get along. For the most part, we tend to think that they are uppity and aloof. God knows what they think of humans. The 3 men got up and moved, as one, toward her. I normally don't like to interfere in bar fights. It's always a bad idea. But this one seemed unfair. The elf finished with the drunk and turned to face the men approaching her from the rear. Clearly outnumbered, she took a step back and prepared to defend herself. The look on her face would have scared a goblin, but the 3 men were drunkenly unaffected. Even though I knew better, I moved toward the men and tapped the biggest one on the shoulder. As he turned to face me, my staff cracked against his skull. He fell to the floor, unconscious. The second fat man noticed that his friend hit the ground, turned, and charged me. Obviously, the ale he had had that night had taken its toll. When he got close enough, I punched him in his stomach, burying my arm elbow deep into the fat of his belly. He doubled up and fell to his knees. I turned to see the elf standing over the third man, who was face down on the floor. A pool of blood was forming under his face from his broken nose. The rest of the bar crowd murmured and started to rise in what could only be called a drunken military maneuver. Seeing 2 of their kind being bested by 1 elf and 2 more put on the floor by a stranger, they decided silently to get revenge. At this point, I figured that escape was the better part of gallantry. I grabbed the elf by the arm and pulled her struggling to the door and outside. I took a bench from in front of the inn and used it to block the exit. Turning, I grabbed the elf and hoisted her onto my horse. I followed her up and was galloping out of town when the bar crowd broke through the door and spilled out. As we rode away, we could hear the proprietor of the tavern yelling, "Don't ever come back here, you elven whore! You're fired! You hear me? You're fired!" This set her off. I like to think of myself as a calm man, but she was pushing it. I must have ridden miles listening to her insistence that she could have handled the men back at the bar alone, and her insults to my manhood. I also learned that not only had I cost her her job and a week's worth of pay from the innkeeper, but I had also taken her away from all of her meager possessions and a place to stay. After a while, making sure we had not been followed, I reined in the horse and came to a stop. After I dismounted, she jumped down, straightened out her skimpy outerwear, turned to me and asked, "What do you plan to do about this?" "About what?" I inquired. "It may have slipped your mind, but I saved your hide back there. Personally, I think some thanks are in order." "Thanks? What are you, daft? This wasn't the first time something like this happened, and the barkeep would have called off those men. Not only that, I can take care of myself. And if you hadn't butted in, it would have been over and forgotten by now. You cost me my job, everything I own, and a place to live." She stood staring at me with her arms folded across her chest. "Look, okay, I'm sorry. I can give you some money, and I'll take you with me to the next town, but that's about all I can do." She held her ground and her tongue, but she started to tap her foot. "Okay, fine," I added. "I have a room you can use. Will that do?" "What about clothes?" "What? You don't think I'm going to go around like this forever, do you?" she asked, uncrossing her arms. "Yeah, okay, fine. I can give you a couple of extra coppers and you can go shopping in the village." "Really?" "I don't think so. This is the way it's going to be. First, you're going to pay me for the wages and belongings I lost. Then you're going to find me a job and a place to live." "I think that's a bit much." "Well, then you better think again," she said as she stepped into the stirrup and mounted the back of my horse. "I'm going to get everything I'm owed from you, or there's going to be hell to pay." Okay, fine, fine. I have a shop in Plowden. You can work there a bit. And like I said, I have a spare room you can use, but only till you find something else. That will do for now. And don't get any ideas. What kind of ideas? No funny business. Those kind of ideas. By the way, my name is Lorelei. Well, that was 3 years ago. And personally, I don't think she ever even tried to find another job. Of course, it wasn't like I pressured her. Over time, she learned to put up with my moods, and I learned to put up with, well, with her. Thankfully, living with an elf isn't as grand as you might think. Truthfully, excuse me, living with an elf isn't as grand as you might think. Maybe I should make this bigger. I made it smaller, but, ah, dang it. Okay, because I was changing pages too quick, but we'll make it bigger because my eyes are tired. We never did do any funny business. Not that I wouldn't mind, but I figured if it happens, she's got to make the first move, or else life could get complicated. Bo, someone's downstairs to see you, she said. You know who it is? No, but he says he's from Auguries. He's wearing wizard's robes. Okay, great, I sighed. Send him on up. A few minutes later, a scrawny teenager walked in the door. He was tall, a little over 6 feet. A long face, black hair, bright blue eyes, and unbelievably pale and thin. His ill-fitting robe reminded me more of a tent than a garment. When he saw me, he took off his battered hat, got down on one knee, and said, Master. Get up, I barked. I'm not your master. Looking at me quizzically, he asked, Aren't you Master Boaz? It's just Boaz now. I left Auguries a long time ago. I'm nobody's master now. You can just call me Bo. He got to his feet, looking confused, and turned his hat around in his hands by its brim. I bring a message from Master Vivax. He requests that you come to Auguries as quickly as possible. Do you know why? No, sir. They don't include me in on their talks. I do know that the senior staff was pretty upset about something. Yeah, they do like to play things pretty close to the vest. I guess we could get a start in the morning. I'm Sir Bo. I'll be going back now. What's your name? Petch? Listen, Petch, you look beat. When did you leave Auguries? Yesterday noon? Yesterday noon? It means you rode straight on through the night and at a pretty good clip, too. Master Vivax was clear that I was to make all haste. If you leave now, you will either fall asleep on your horse and fall off, or you'll end up riding your mount to death. How much longer do you think it will take you to get back when something like that happens? But, no buts. I'll take care of Master Vivax when we get there. You get some food and rest. I'll get your horse taken care of. I'll make sure he gets rubbed down and get some clean water and fresh hay. Go downstairs and tell Lorelei I said to fix you something to eat, and then have her show you to the room and back. The next morning found Petch and me in the kitchen eating breakfast before starting our trip. Lorelei was moving noisily about, banging pots and pans and the like. She was not happy about me leaving on such short notice. But no matter how mad she was or how much noise she made, it was hard to take her seriously when she was still dressed in the sheer white long shirt that she had worn to bed. Was this book written by a man? Yes, it was. Gracious. Petch couldn't bring himself to stop staring at her. It must have been the first real woman in a state of undress he had ever seen. Close your mouth. You're letting food fall out, I told him. He snapped out of his trance, blushed, and looked embarrassingly at his plate. Why do you have to go now, Bo? Laurie asked. I mean, this is pretty short notice. Master Vivax sent for me. That's all I need to know. And this is the first time he's done that. Something must be up, and obviously something has happened. That old man just wants to check up on you. Have you been doing anything you shouldn't? Well, not lately. I slammed down the last of my tea and motioned to Petch that it was time to go. He shoveled the remaining eggs into his face and stood up too quickly, almost knocking over the table in the process. Take it easy, Tiger, Laurie said. Sorry, ma'am. She walked over to him and patted him gently on the cheek. With a big smile, she growled, If you ever call me ma'am again, you'll lose your tongue. Petch swallowed hard and turned to me. Don't look at me, I laughed. Just go on out and get the horses. Looking relieved to be going, he picked up his staff and walked quickly out the door. Don't be too hard on him, I said to Lorelei. He's just a kid. I know. I was just having a bit of fun. Well, just stay put and take care of the store while I'm gone. I should be back in about 5 days. Not a chance. You'll be lucky if the place isn't burned to the ground. That'll teach you to leave me alone again. I wanted to kiss her on the cheek as I walked out the door, but thought better of it. Outside, Petch was already mounted and ready to go. He couldn't wait to get started. Not only had Laurie rattled him, he was afraid he was taking too long to get back. If relief was an odor, he would reek. And that's the end of chapter 1. I mean, that's a pretty okay start, minus all the references to how physically attractive Lorelei is. Ugh, gracious. Well, good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite. And if they do, make sure you bite them back because you are worthy of defense. Good night.